Circuit 42 would like to thank Pop Culture Paradise, Toy Anxiety, the Spawn Point Gamers Lounge, and Dragon's Lair San Antonio.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Circuit 42 Presents. I'm your host for the evening, Shane Fitzgerald, and I'm joined tonight by Ian McIntosh.
Yes.
Yes, we are. And Miss Shannon Bowles.
Hello.
All right. So, if you've been following the site, you know a while back I interviewed the writer, director, and the makeup effects artist for Wolf Cop. And I guess the big question we posed from that was, what could be better than a Canadian werewolf cop? Completely forgetting that there exists a movie with a retired Elvis with cancer on his penis fighting a mummy. Yeah, tonight we're talking Bubba Ho-Tep, and our special guest for tonight is the art director from Bubba Ho-Tep, Mr. Justin Zaharczuk. Welcome to the show.
Hi guys, glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. Interview's over! No, I'm just kidding.
Hey guys, I'm just curious, when did Wolf Cop come out?
That actually started on, it first started on June 6th up here in Canada in select theaters. It got an additional release this past Friday, the 13th, full moon Friday the 13th, funny enough. And it is, in fact, on demand right now. If you go to wolfcop.com, you can demand it in more theaters across Canada, internationally, and in the U.S. And I highly recommend you do it because this movie is amazing.
Yeah, that sounds promising, actually. I'd like that.
Yeah. But enough about that. Let's talk about Bruce Campbell Elvis killing mummies.
So,
With Black JFK.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Who's thinking with his hand. This movie has so much depth.
Oh yeah.
It kind of does, actually, in a way.
Yes.
So, first question. Like, you know, a lot of people coming on here are fans of Bubba Ho-Tep, but I think a lot of people actually became fans once it came out on DVD and video.
Yes.
Now, there's a really interesting history behind the distribution of Bubba Ho-Tep.
Oh yes, there is. We were very, very lucky.
So, why don't you tell us? Because I know a lot of people don't realize that even though MGM did get the movie later, that they weren't actually the ones who distributed it in theaters.
No, they were not. Yes. It's a great story. One of the nice things about working with director Don Coscarelli is that as low budget and bleak looking it could be during filming, and that's been on every single movie with Don, just extremely low budget, just worrying how we were even going to make it through the day. He always sets up these amazing deals somehow towards the end, luckily for all of us, and luckily for his films. And Bubba Ho-Tep was no exception. I forget the name of the company right now, but it was a art house chain of theaters. And but while we were shooting, we had no idea what was going to happen. We were all sweating it out, hoping and praying and wondering what would happen. And so we finished filming, I'm going to guess, sometime in late summer of 2001, and straight away they started shopping it around. In that time, and during pre-production, we had been turned down by every single company that there was, even when this was just a script and we were trying to get funding. Nobody wanted to touch Bubba Ho-Tep with a 10-foot pole. That's basically how it went. Having Elvis in a retirement home is one thing. It's kind of cute. People can sort of follow it there. But when you start getting into things like talking about, oh, yeah, by the way, it's Elvis in a retirement home, and, they think it's a crazy guy. Oh, but also, by the way, there's a black JFK and there's a mummy. You just sort of lose a lot of people right there. And then, and then on top of it, like the icing on top of the cake is, start talking about cancer on someone's penis, and it's sort of hard to get money that way.
I'm sorry, I tried really hard not to crack on that.
Yeah, I actually just muted my microphone because I knew I was going to start laughing.
Well, I mean, if you want me to expand on that, nobody wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Nobody wanted to go anywhere near it. We weren't sure who we were going to get to be the lead in the film, and one of my concerns from early on is, if we're going to be doing a script that's so strange and so bizarre, it's going to attract some people because of the originality, but who are we going to have in this leading role? Who are we going to have to bring people in? And I remember some of the early people that we had interested were A, Nicolas Cage, B, Gary Busey, and C, Randy Quaid. And I'm not sure who we got the furthest with. It may have been Randy Quaid, actually, believe it or not. But I'll tell you, the choice of Bruce Campbell, we got lucky out of nowhere. Don Coscarelli is a longtime friend of Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi actually appears in Phantasm 2, a.k.a. a cremated bag of ash, in one of the embalming scenes. If you look close, it's Sam Raimi's name on the container. Oh, yeah, I
remember that, yes.
Yeah. So he was talking to Don one day about the Bubba Ho-Tep, and he said, look, maybe we can get Bruce. And, none of this was told to us until it was something that was concrete. But I knew as soon as, when Don called me one day, I'm going to guess it was probably in, I'm going to say early 2000, that was secured. I knew that A, we would eventually get the proper funding, but B, I knew that it was going to be a huge success with someone like that, and we were all happy about it.
So I got to say something. Despite being a huge fan of Campbell, I'm also a huge fan of Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from his history that he has experience playing Elvis. I would love to be able to go back in time into like an alternate timeline and see the Bubba Ho-Tep that starred Nicolas Cage.
Okay, well, I do remember one detail about that venture with Nicolas Cage. I remember specifically, I'm not sure the person who told me, because I had asked, what happened with that and how come he's not going to be attached, and I'm pretty sure it had been advised by his agent. It wasn't Nicolas Cage's decision, by the way. Nicolas Cage did want to play the part, but I'm pretty sure it had been advised, I think, by his agent to not touch one more single Elvis / Vegas type of property. I think they had thought that he had done too many things like that, and they wanted him to steer clear.
So apparently this was the first time that his agent was wrong.
I know. It would have been nice, huh? It would have been nice.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Cage, fire your agent.
I think he already knows that.
As much as I love Bruce, Nick Cage would have been amazing in this movie.
Yep.
So Shane, do you have the next question?
Yeah. The whole film, as many people know, was adapted from a story in a novella by Joe Lansdale. Can you tell us some of the details around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometime in 1996, myself, Don Coscarelli, and Roger Avery were working on developing a script called Phantasm 1999, which was going to be a big deal. It was going to be a huge budget, and we were working on that. But we took about a month break from that. I think it was probably in the summer of '96. And Don Coscarelli said, "Hey, look, I'm going to send you something in the mail." And this is before a lot of things were being sent through the internet and whatnot. And so, to be honest, most of our conversations and most of our work was being done through FedEx, fax, and lengthy telephone calls. So he sent me this little novella. I had noticed that at about midway through there was a little bookmarker in there and some notes from Don Coscarelli. And so I opened it up, and there on the first post-it this is Bubba Ho-Tep, read this through, and he said, attached on little more post-its as you read are going to be little notes, ideas that I want you to think about maybe fleshing out conceptually, artistic-wise, on some sketches, to do some sketching for us. So I read the script, the novella, and I was blown away. Anytime, you're in the film business, and I know you guys are huge movie buffs and whatnot, one of the things that happens is after you can only see so many movies and read so many comic books before you can start to guess, like, from page to page and sometimes sentence to sentence, what's going to happen next. things start to seem a little cookie cutter as you get a little bit more adept in easy to tell storylines. But with Bubba Ho-Tep, not only could I not guess it from page to page, I couldn't guess it almost from word to word. And I knew it would be something really exciting to do.
All right. It certainly turned out to be an awesome thing to experience from this side of the screen. So
I'd like to say that one of our concerns, as it was still being fleshed out, one of the reasons it had to be fleshed out is because all you have to do is take one look at how many pages the story is originally, and it's kind of short. And I think maybe that was one of the first things I was thinking of as I approached the end of that original story is, hey, there's not a lot of pages here. What are we going to do? And also the other concern I had was, what are we going to do with a script where it basically takes place all in one spot with a bunch of old men who can't really barely move, and there's not many other scenes. There's not many other locations. And that was a big concern. So when about a half a year later, Don Coscarelli sent me his first adapted screenplay based on that novella story, I was really happy with the choices that he made to make the story a little bit longer and a little bit fleshed out, and then just a little bit more visually exciting for the audience. We were concerned, and I'm sure you guys had probably listened to the some of the audio commentary that's been available on the DVD and some of the interviews and whatnot, but very early on, we were all sweating it out, wondering, are they going to actually hire the effects company to sit there and do scenes of a nasty genital area for this Elvis character? And to be honest, I was glad that they sort of just didn't even go near that in the film. But before a fun fact, just so you guys know, they were going to be reusing either the actual prop or recasting from the original mold of the Boogie Nights Mark Wahlberg penis.
Oh, my.
Okay. Backtracking a little bit, the first interview I did with Circuit 42 was with Ellen McLean, the voice of GLaDOS from Portal, and her husband, the voice of the sniper from Team Fortress 2, and somehow the conversation went back to how Toronto, Ontario, Canada is often used as a backdrop in place of New York. For large fight scenes and stuff like that, large action sequences, and I basically called Toronto, New York's butt double. So now thanks to you, sir, I now get to say that Mark Wahlberg is Bruce Campbell's dick double.
He sure is. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, it was KNB effects, and they did Boogie Nights. So yeah, I mean, it was a real possibility, and it was a real option, and I'm glad they sort of just didn't do it.
If Circuit 42 ever gets to do press junkets, my God. If they ever send me to anything involving Mark Wahlberg, I'm going to get a restraining order from him. I know I am after this. Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, nothing like breaking the ice with a conversation. Hey, I heard the mold of your penis was almost used in Bubba Ho-Tep. Yeah, that would go over real well. I'm certain of it.
Guys, even though we're not going to probably be using this part of the interview, while we're speaking of those special effects, I'd like to say that it brought real joy to my face every day, somewhere at some kind of crazy time between about 5 and 5:15 a.m. on the set of Bubba Ho-Tep. I used to watch Bruce Campbell come in looking completely miserable at being up that early. That's what time he'd have to get there every day to get into his makeup, especially in the beginning. I don't know if you guys know how makeup effects work on actors, but there's definitely a curve, like a learning curve, as to applying the makeup. So for the first, I'd say, week or two, it took them a good 3.5 hours, I'd say maybe even a little bit more, to get his makeup on. But then his production went down, as production went along, it took them probably maybe only about an hour and a quarter to put his makeup on. But it was a little bit more lengthy, I think, than maybe some people realize. Since I know this is going to, no matter what, turn into talking about Bruce Campbell, I'd like to tell a story that, I've noticed at conventions that Bruce Campbell likes to play jokes on his fans and make his fans the butt of the jokes a lot of the times. And I decided to get a little bit even with Mr. Bruce Campbell when I realized that he would when it was going to be his first day of filming on Bubba Ho-Tep. And so what I did is we had been told that he was going to appear on such and such a date. He wouldn't be filming that day, but he's just going to come around and take a look at the sets and whatnot. So somewhere, I guess about 9 or 10 a.m., Don's waking up with this guy, and he was sort of incognito, sort of dressed down, sunglasses, so you probably sort of couldn't tell who it was, but I knew who it was right away. So I ran up to him and I said, Don, is this the new production assistant? Because we have a bathroom that's overflowing and we need somebody to clean it up right now. I'd like you to get in there and clean up this bathroom right now. There's just trash everywhere. I need you to clean this up. And Bruce Campbell looked aggravated and terrified and annoyed and just upset all at once. And I just smiled real quick and I said, hey, I'm just kidding. I know who you are, and welcome to the set.
That's awesome.
The only thing I don't like about that is that you beat me to it. That's the great.
I'd like to just add one more.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
I'd like to add one more thing. I said, okay. I was like, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Campbell. I got to get back to work. And here is his quote. Here is his quote. You can quote this. Get the fuck back to work.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Oh God, that was.
Yep.
Oh, that's a thing.
So we had a great time, and actually, all jokes aside, we razzed each other on set and whatnot, but what made everything so worthwhile is that I'd say at least 3 times a week in the morning before shooting, one of the first things that they would do is they would look at the dailies from the day before, which is the raw footage from the day before. And we were still shooting on film. Thank God. I love film. And so we would look at these things. And I remember the first day that we got dailies back of Bruce Campbell playing Elvis. It was, we actually shot somewhat in order with Bruce. Some of the first scenes that we did were some of the first scenes that appear in the film of him laying in the bed. And so when we saw those dailies for the first time and we saw how good of a job he was doing and just how good that makeup looked, we just all definitely breathed a sigh of relief, because believe me, when you're making a movie as outlandish and dark with really odd, off-putting humor that's going to turn away so many people, like cancer on people's penises, and black men that think they're JFK, you just need any help you can get. And when we were shooting this thing, we had no money whatsoever, and just things were really haphazard, and we were all worried. Was this going to work? So when we saw those daily rushes of Bruce in his scenes acting, we all became a lot more confident in what we were doing, and it made shooting a little bit easier.
That's pretty awesome, especially when you consider the origins of the film, and like you said, the way that you guys were working. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Shannon?
Okay, for those of our listeners that don't know this, what part does an art director play in a film production?
Okay, well, an art director usually be working in tandem with the production designer. And names like production designer and art director, they're people that are responsible for the look. They're responsible for a lot of the look of the film, where not including the lighting, but like what the sets are going to look like. A lot of what the props that the actors are going to be holding in their hands. It could be something as big as the retirement home in the film, which we built. That wasn't a pre-existing building or a retirement home or anything. We had to build that sucker.
Wow.
So something as big as that, or something as minutely small over a book of matches. And I remember on Bubba Ho-Tep, we actually had discussions on what kind of book of matches were we going to use. And that's the kind of detail that attracted me to working with Don, because he likes to get into everything, and he likes everything very well fleshed out. So it was a real pleasure to work with him.
Yeah. That's something that I personally noticed. Sorry, Shen?
That is some serious commitment to build a craptastic-looking retirement home that looks like it's on its last leg from the ground up.
It was a scary experience, because what it was is we shot where we shot it was almost like a full soundstage / broke down Universal Studios. It was an abandoned hospital complex. I'd say it was at least 4 or 5 acres of land with all these buildings on it that were completely bombed out and gutted in a lot of examples. So that's what we did for Bubba Ho-Tep. In the retirement home, we got this big warehouse type building, and it was like all gutted out and messed up, and we just started building hallways and sets inside of the thing. And we would be there, myself, the production designer Daniel Vecchione, and the art assistant Damien. We would be there sometimes a week straight without going home. So we lived on some of these sets, and I tell you, as the retirement home came into fruition and started to take shape, it started to be really creepy to be there at night. But it was such a low-budget film, and there was just no money, and the time constraints were so limited that we would literally work sometimes 16-hour days, 17-hour days, and we would literally be standing there building, a door frame and just fall asleep next to it. And that happened to us all the time on Bubba Ho-Tep. So when I watch the film, I know every nook and cranny, obviously, and I think of 1,000 funny different stories that happened at each doorway or each set of steps or whatnot. And I'll give you an example. A beehive had somehow at some point been built by an angry group of bees in one of the rooms at some point, and we had trouble getting rid of it. And one time I fell asleep outside of that room and woke up to being stung by bees, and it was very unpleasant.
Ew.
Yeah, so when you watch the film, for everybody listening, including the interviewers here, just keep in mind that behind one of those doors is a beehive.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I know this.
Wait. Sorry. You almost had Nicolas Cage on this movie, and there was a problem with bees.
Yes.
Oddly prophetic. We like to have fun with Nick Cage around here, in case you hadn't noticed.
That's pretty much the closest we have to a real-life superhero, I've decided. My co-hosts don't agree with me.
I tell you, it would have been an interesting film with Nicolas Cage, absolutely.
Before we move on to the next question, I've got to go off on the solo side. Because, I never do that on this podcast. So, a while back, I wanted to do a little experiment and see how long it actually took people to actually fact-check Wikipedia and edit things and correct them. So I went onto Bruce Campbell's page, and I put, Bruce Campbell is so awesome that he has found a way to use his awesome ability to turn it into a propulsion source and can now fly by his own power. This stayed up there for a week.
Wow. Wow.
And I just thought of it off the top of my head and I posted it. And that stayed up there for a week.
You know who probably took it down?
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, because you're revealing his secrets, dumbass. What's wrong with you?
Oh.
Yeah, he doesn't want everybody to know that.
Damn, now Shane. Shane, why did you say that about him? Now he's going to kill you.
I can think of worse ways to go.
Fair enough. Wolf cop. So, so like a lot of.
What's your damn question?
Quite a few. So one of the things I wanted to ask about, because you were talking about the look of the movie and the kind of very almost sad, seemingly falling apart environment of the rest home, or the chance at a rest home on its last legs. Considering the budgetary constraints of the film, how is the look of it achieved as far as like the atmosphere and the lighting and the feel of it? Because it doesn't feel like a movie that was made on such a limited production as it was.
Okay, I can think of three things. One is that Don Coscarelli, come hell or high water, always makes sure that it looks good somehow. Number two, he always hires someone competent enough cinematography-wise. And lighting is, I mean, I know it's probably generic standard to say, but lighting is everything. And so he always makes sure that he hires someone that has pretty good experience with lighting things, especially things that are being lit, chiaroscuro-wise, dark shading-wise. And that's a huge thing. Because I can't tell you how many times, not just on Coscarelli's films, but on any film where, I've been on set and we'll be making things and we'll be going to do things and, there'll be no money, or sometimes we'll just show up on an actual location where we don't have to build stuff. And, as they're setting up the shot, in my mind, I'll literally be thinking, this looks absolutely ridiculous. It looks terrible, and there's no way this is going to work. But through the magic of film and the magic of lighting and using the proper angles, it all comes together. That being said, though, with Bubba Ho-Tep, we worked always until the very last nanosecond before that they would roll the camera. We would literally be working between cuts, between takes. I'll give you an example. I want to try to offer you guys fun little tidbits that aren't on the DVD commentaries. Okay, so I gave you the one about the beehive. Now here's another. Do you guys remember the scene where they're in the retirement home sort of like cafeteria area?
Oh yeah, they're all getting ready.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now I'm not sure if it's just because I worked on it that I can tell, or I want to let you guys be the judge, and hopefully other people that are going to be listening to this interview can go check this out. If you look at the walls, they're green, okay? Now, I could swear that you can still see that they are, no joke, they're still soaking wet because we had just gotten done painting those walls, I'd say 2 minutes before they began shooting. So take a second look on those walls, and I'm pretty sure that you can still see wet paint practically dripping down.
Yes. Actually, I was watching getting ready for the interview this week, and I spotted that too.
Yeah, so no one was to touch the walls.
Wow.
Yeah. But if you guys give me a couple of minutes as we're talking, I can probably think of a bunch of more things like that in the film. Oh, okay, I'll give you another example. A prop that we were working on again and again to try to have it look natural and have it look, homemade, was the flamethrower type of device, that little sort of like Hudson sprayer at the end of the film that Elvis carries. And, we're trying to get this thing to look right, trying not to have it look too, we don't want to draw too much attention to it. And we had noticed that the strap that comes across Bruce's chest, it was a little bit glitzy. It just didn't look too realistic. So we were dumbing it down, and we were changing the color, I think, of the fabric. But long story short, Bruce Campbell did not like that flamethrower device. He said that when he was trying to put it on, it kept slipping and interfering with his jumpsuit, and therefore breaking his concentration. So at one point, Bruce Campbell took the flamethrower device that you see the film and threw it about 100 feet down the lawn in the film there. So we had to make another one.
Wow, I don't know what to say about Bruce in that situation.
The shit that man puts up with, I swear to God.
The shit that Justin puts up with. Bruce just threw a flamethrower across the room.
Okay, but he got
the shit that Bruce puts up with, and everybody around Bruce puts up with as a result.
Yeah. So, it was a lot of fun. We played around back and forth, and he did get his revenge on me for the practical joke I played on him when he first met me about me calling him a production assistant and to clean the bathroom. He, at one point, I was a stunt double for the actual Bubba Ho-Tep creature. There's a couple of scenes in the film where the creature's being squirted with water out of that Hudson sprayer while Bruce is sitting in his wheelchair. And I was the actual person playing Bubba Ho-Tep in some of those scenes. And it was only from, I think, maybe the chest down. So you couldn't see my face at all. So therefore, I didn't have to be wearing the upper apparatus or the mask or hat or anything. And when Bruce Campbell saw it was me going to be playing the scene, he made sure to squirt that Hudson sprayer directly into my eyes, take after take after take.
Okay, I have to watch this again now. Like, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to go back and watch it again.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Shannon,
the king.
I just lost my words completely. Shannon, do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Wait, did you have the question? Or I have the question? You had the question. Ask your question. Sorry, I'm still lost.
I think technically I was next, but I don't. Shannon,
Okay.
you can
Go
ask.
ahead then, Shane.
Okay, all right. I guess on average, how much would you say changes from the art stage of development to the actual shooting?
That's a great question. Okay, here's how I usually like to break it down. When you're in the art stage of development, everything is grandiose. You have these high expectations, these high ideals, all this cutting edge type of material that you want to build and make and construct and design and have be on film. And that's well and good up until about the time you get there on set and you realize, okay, we have such and such amount of time. It's usually very short, and they want you to be done practically before you start. So it can change quite a lot. And as I've gotten older and, as I spent more time in the film business, I knew to design things a little bit more realistically, because otherwise you're just constantly having to compromise and dummy down your original design the entire time. Okay, so the retirement home that we built actually came out a lot better than we thought. I'd say one of the main reasons is that was probably the one area where maybe they had given us a little bit more time than the others. But just to clear it up for everybody listening, the hallways that you see of the retirement home, that's one set. That's one gigantic set. I'd say that was a 100-foot hallway that comes down to a corner into an L shape and then offshoots into another 100-foot hallway. And then I think there was even maybe one more 50-foot onshoot after that. That was probably the most time that they gave us. But that's just one set. When you see the outside of the retirement home, that is a completely different location. And then when you see the inside of each room, that's also a completely different location. So anytime anybody steps in or out of a doorway and into that hallway, that's a completely different area.
So, have you worked with other studios and directors? And if you have, what's the difference between working with them and working with Coscarelli?
Okay.
And I'm sorry if I butchered his name.
No, that's pretty good, Don Coscarelli.
Coscarelli,
I'd say
okay.
Okay. The big thing with working with Don is, I'd say the biggest things are when I work with Don, the budgets are always really slim, a lot slimmer than just about any other director I've worked with, which inherently will mean that during shooting it's a lot more difficult to do and it's a lot more stress. With any other studio or director I've worked with, there's always been more time and money. Okay, actually I take that back. There's probably not a lot more time, but money-wise it's usually better. And I've usually had a more fun and easygoing time on set. And the reason I'm stating this is because I'm setting this up for something. And that's something that's a universally known rule when shooting and being in the film business, and that's this. The more fun and time and money you have during a movie shooting is usually a death curse. It's usually the seal of the kiss of doom. Anytime I've worked on a movie where it's been easygoing, where everybody all gets along, and where there's oodles of time, I don't know what it is, but again and again and again, that film product just doesn't turn out that good. So although the stress level is much higher on a Don Coscarelli film and there's not as much money, I always know that when I work with that guy, that the most important thing is that film is actually going to be released. That's the biggest thing. I can think of a handful of examples of films that I've worked on where I had a great time, and you know what? Those films never even came out. I literally don't even know what happened to those films. So there's pros and cons to everything.
So before we wrap up the show, I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to ask my co-host a question as well. While working, just not even as some member of the crew, but as just a viewer, what is your personal favorite scene in Bubba Ho-Tep?
In Bubba Ho-Tep, it's probably the scene. It's probably the scene that I got to work on the most personally with, which is that when we were pretty much done filming in the summer of 2001, they had managed somehow to put together a rough cut pretty impressively quick, actually. And they had already shown Don had a friend that worked on a show called Ally McBeal. And they had brought a rough. It was the very first rough cut of Bubba Ho-Tep that existed over to these people at Ally McBeal. And the response that they got there was that it needs more. You should have at least one more scene of this mummy character. So while most of the crew was still around and before everybody went home off of this, sprawling Bubba Ho-Tep shooting complex that we were at, Don said, "Hey, look, we got to film one more scene. We can't really afford to build anything else or bring around any more actors, but we still have the actor that plays Bubba. We still have all the apparatus that goes on the guy and the costuming effects. So let's shoot one more scene." He said, "We're going to shoot it next week," and he said, "I'm taking ideas." And this brings up one of the best things of working with Don Coscarelli is that when you work on his films, it is a completely like a family atmosphere where he'll take ideas from anybody. And this is that example. He said, "We need another scene for this film. We need it to be with the Bubba Ho-Tep mummy creature. I don't know what to do, and we're going to have a production meeting on Monday, and I want to hear everybody's idea." So I'd say about 10 of us went home, and then we all started vying to help out on this scene and see whose idea whose idea would Don pick. So I went home and I wrote this scene of the mummy creature stepping out from this tool shed that was outside. So I storyboarded the whole thing out so that I'd have it during this meeting, and I brought my little storyboards in on that Monday at about 6 a.m., and we went through the ideas, and luckily he picked that idea. I wrote the scene. Reggie Benister, who plays a small role in the film and is in the actual scene, he wrote the dialogue. And then Christopher Coleman, who worked on Phantasm 4, came in and did the cinematography for the shot. So that's my favorite scene. It's the little tool shed scene. It's only about a minute long.
I gotta say, as far as my personal favorite scene in the movie, it was actually the death of the Lone Ranger. Okay. Because, the scene in itself is the kind of absurdity behind it. You'd expect it to be a funny scene. Like the whole movie, you'd expect it to just be played for laughs if you were to describe the concept of the movie. But when you watch the scene, it's honestly a very sad scene. Like, you watch it and it just stands out so much in the movie just because, it just feels very, very important within the context of the movie.
That guy was a gentleman by the name of Larry Pinnell, who was probably in better shape than all of us combined and could have kicked all our asses at once with one hand. But he was an amazing guy and just very nonchalant, very down to earth. And I'm sure a lot of people out there know who this gentleman is, but he was I think he plays somebody called Dash Riprock on the Beverly Hillbillies. And he was also one of the boxers in a movie called The Great White Hope with James Earl Jones. So he's a very well-known actor, and we were lucky to have him on set.
And what about you guys, Shannon?
This might be juvenile of me, but yeah, I think y'all already know where I'm going with this. But the scene where Sebastian's soldier stands at attention, that was just that was. On one hand, it's very comical. On the other hand, I do have several friends who are much older guys. Some, I won't mention their names, do have the issue of impotence, and erectile dysfunction. And
like
so whenever I
shows up for the concert is what you're saying.
When you see, well, I wouldn't personally want to see an old man get a Woody. You can't help but cheer for when you have elderly male friends, you can't help but, cheer like, yay, that's proof old Ben can still stand at attention.
Triumph.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, I'd like to mention something.
Moment of the movie.
I'd like to mention something about that scene, which is when we were going to shoot that scene that day, and when I took a look at the script, it's hard to imagine now, but believe it or not, in the script, it doesn't play that well. It's a little bit awkward. So we were very amazed and surprised at just how well the nurse character is, how well she plays that scene, but definitely just how well that Bruce Campbell handled that dialogue in his face, just his facial expressions and whatnot. It just completely works.
She's actually...
That look at the end of that scene when he just reclines back with that little smug smile like, oh yeah. I still got it.
He's
got his cowboy hat.
And that's why we're glad we had Bruce Campbell on board for scenes like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say before we move on, she's actually one of my favorite people in the movie as far as performances, because everybody talks about Ozzy and everybody talks about Campbell. But she's great in the movie. Like I really love the kind of dry delivery she has, and that just made the whole movie even better.
Yeah, and what's really a nice thing too is that from being in the film business and working with so many actresses, I'm not going to mention any names, but from working with so many actresses, they can be extremely difficult. And what was nice about the young lady who played the nurse in the film, I can't remember her name at the moment, but she was just incredible. Just really nice, really nicely laid back, and very good-natured, very friendly. It was really nice to have her on board, and she actually eased some of the tension that was on set sometimes. She was great.
That's pretty awesome here. I like the fact that you have people like that who can make that stress environment that can be extremely stressful just a little bit easier.
So I'd also like to mention that there's another actor every time I've worked with that is also like that. As I had mentioned a couple minutes ago, working on a film that's so low budget and in such a rush to get done with no money, it is a pressure cooker. It's difficult for everybody because you're trying to achieve the highest look possible and trying to make something look good and trying not to let down the audience, but you literally have no money to do it. So sometimes spirits on set can be a little down. But there's one actor I've worked with again and again that the second they step onto the set, it's like just something happens and it just gets a lot better. And that actor is Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm films. Reggie only had a small part in the film, but he was there almost every day helping us with all kinds of crazy stuff. The guy just knows so many people and is so friendly. The guy should be a politician. He was helping us he was helping us all the time. I mean, even down to little things like there's a really quick trailer park scene where the Elvis's trailer blows up, and we needed some props for the film because it had to look like it was taking place in the past, so we needed some period props. And Reggie actually had hunted down a whole bunch of, I think they were Coors Light beer cans from the 1970s. So he was just a great guy, and he's always just a pleasure to have around. Always makes things just instantly more relaxed.
Reggie and is probably one of my favorite parts of the Phantasm series,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me happy that he went from, the ice cream man who helped out, to played this major role as the series went on.
Yes.
And I like how he slowly but surely became like the Ash of the Phantasm movies.
Yes. Absolutely. And if you like Reggie as that character, then just hold on tight because there'll be more coming. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Reggie, yes. I love Reggie. I have to say, for like an unassuming guy like Reggie, the Ice
Bannister.
Reggie Bannister. Every time I see that one scene where he revs up the chainsaw and just goes, "Come on, you mother!" and he just looks like a total badass, and it's beautiful.
Okay, now, I would like to add on to that too. I'm not going to give too much away here, but
I mentioned the 4-barrel shotgun, but go ahead.
exactly. I don't want to give too much away here, but yeah, I mean, he's just an average Joe looking guy, but I don't think a lot of people realize just how strong and athletic the guy is. We shot a little movie very recently called Phantasm Part 5, and he still has it. The guy's definitely in shape.
That makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe that he, I don't want to say how old he is, but I think he's probably even older than people think, which makes it even more amazing.
Well, I saw an interview with him at a convention a while back. It was from comics. It's from San Diego, and he really hasn't aged all that much.
No, he hasn't.
It's kind of nuts, man. I think it's all the ice cream.
Yeah, it must be. It's all the ice cream and the Dos Equis.
Exactly. You heard it here first from
honestly,
Justin Zaharczuk.
Honestly, with the stuff that I'm hearing about, like the sequel to Bubba Ho-Tep and the development going behind that, I'm kind of surprised that instead of Paul Giamatti being tapped to be Colonel Parker, that you didn't just get Reggie to do it.
It's something to think about. Maybe I can mention something. Yeah.
Yeah. Because no offense to Paul Giamatti. Paul's great, but, Reggie Bannister. Come on.
I know. He's Don Coscarelli's good luck charm. Don really doesn't like to make a movie without the guy, actually, so I wonder what's going to happen.
There you go.
Shane, you may have started something right here at Circuit 42. Changes the world, man.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it sounds like you're adding it to like the list of
Yes.
all the things you've done. Okay, writing it down. Cause Hitler to commit suicide after World War II. Stop Brett Ratner from making another X-Men movie. Got Reggie Bannister in Ho-Tep.
No. Just stop Brett Ratner. Just stop him altogether.
Nice.
It's like
No
Ratner just
X-Men, no Rush
explodes.
Hour, no nothing. You're done. Get out of here.
And no Hercules.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're still letting him make movies. All right, so before we wrap it up, Shane, what is your favorite scene in Bubba Ho-Tep?
You guys have been coming up with some really in-depth stuff, but honestly, I'm a lot more simplistic. I just like any of the exchanges between Bruce Campbell and Ossie Davis in this movie because I love the chemistry between the two of them, and in character, it's really interesting because going on the premise that the Elvis that Bruce is playing is in fact Elvis. It's not Sebastian Haff, and he didn't just make up the story. Nobody believes him except for this one guy who doesn't even know who he is. Ossie Davis in the movie thinks he's JFK, dyed black, and with a part of his brain removed, replaced with a bag of sand, and kept alive in the White House. So it's really interesting that that's the one really personal connection that he has is this basically delusional guy who believes him, but is obviously, as I said, delusional. So
Right.
it just creates that really interesting, like, almost inverse chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah, that rapport between those two actors is definitely significant. And again, we were really lucky to have the actors that we did, because some of that material is so tricky because of how outlandish it is. If it was put in the hands of people, not even people that are less experienced, but people that maybe didn't have as good as chemistry as those actors did working together, I could just see it really just falling apart.
I gotta say,
Not to mention somehow really awkward conversations about their dicks. It just worked somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how does a black actor sit there straight faced talking about chocolate colored ding dongs and get away with it and have it work? And it's funny,
Ossie Davis.
Well, and it works extremely well. I know, someone who's so dignified like that. I mean, we loved it on set. All of us were standing around when they were filming that. We just couldn't wait to hear those words come out of his mouth.
The kindly old grandpa from Dr. Dolittle talking about his ding-dong dick. Oh, you gotta love it.
Yes.
one of the great things I love, speaking of that, is that like people like myself who were too young to really know a lot of Ossie Davis's work prior. We're kind of able to rediscover him. We're kind of able to discover him in this movie. And myself, for example, I actually went through his back catalog and started watching a lot of his stuff because of just how good this guy, who I didn't really know at the time, was in the movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we got Ossie Davis through the help of a gentleman by the name of Mick Garris, who's a director and a longtime friend of Don's.
I know Mick. Mick is awesome.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that he single-handedly convinced Ossie to do this, but I'm pretty sure, as the story goes, they kept trying to get this script to Ossie, but it kept getting into his agent's hands first. And of course, the agent would take a look at this in horror and say no. But then finally, I think they physically got it into Ossie's hands for him to read it himself, and he agreed to it. I think, and again, I think a lot through the help of Mick Garris.
I just got to say this because it's my own personal theory about actors in movies. I personally feel every actor needs at least one movie to just be completely crazy. It's just like Mike Ironside had Highlander 2. Ben Affleck had Reindeer Games.
Nicolas Cage had everything.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, pretty much.
Nicolas Cage had the past 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage has the 21st century.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah, like agents need to adopt my theory and just let these actors have a stupid day. Just let them have one movie where they can just cut loose and be wacky. Quit cock blocking these actors from having a little bit of fun.
Absolutely.
All right. So before we wrap up the show, Justin, is there anything that you're working on right now that you want to mention for our audience before we close up for the night?
Yes, there's something that I'm working on right now that it's burning a hole in my pocket that I wish I could talk about, and I'll just have you guys fill in the blanks from there. There's something I'm working on right now that none of us are really allowed to talk about that will be coming out soon, related to some of the actors and the director I had mentioned. That's a sequel to a film, and we're all excited about it.
So am I.
I'm allowed to mention it's Phantasm 5, so we're all excited about it.
Yep.
I was thinking it was either that or Ron Perlman Elvis fighting aliens, but either one's good. I'll take.
Yeah, not yet. Not yet, anyway.
All right. So where can people find you on
Saying
the?
There's a chance.
Shane Supp's doing the show. Oh, that's pretty awesome.
I'm the host, damn it.
You're a host. Okay.
Are we wrapping this thing up or what?
We are wrapping this thing up. So, Justin, so where can people find you on this wonderful, wonderful thing we call the internet?
On the internet, actually, I have nothing to plug right now. I'm redoing my website, and there's nothing. Actually, I have nothing to report as of yet. I know it's strange to come on something and not have something to plug, but I guess if there's anything to plug, it would be Phantasm 5 coming soon.
All right. And Shane, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you very much, Justin, for your time. It was definitely a very enlightening interview. I think a lot of people learned things that they didn't know about this amazing tongue-in-cheek horror comedy movie.
Very good. You know, one of the things I learned it's been actually probably a good year or two since I've done any interviews on anything. And when Ian first approached me for this, I was sort of sweating, wondering, what could I find something interesting to talk about with Bubba Ho-Tep? But then I remembered very quickly, as we were just talking right now, and that's that the challenge is not finding something interesting to talk about. It's that there's literally 1,000 things as I'm sitting here talking. So maybe someday in the future we can do round 2 of something like this, because there's plenty more stories.
We'll definitely bring it back on again. Especially with something like this, and with when Phantasm 5. When you can talk about Phantasm 5 more, we can bring on you and some of the other guys and do a follow-up.
That would be good, too, because, with Bubba Ho-Tep, that was one thing that we did, but with the Phantasm series, I had been involved since the early 90s, and I have a slew of stories about all of that. That would be incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely have to do that, because I'd love to get in-depth on the Phantasm series as well.
Excellent.
Those are some of the most underrated horror movies of all time. They're amazing, and more people should see them.
And I'd like to mention that they're made with love by a group of people that are thinking about the fans the whole time that we're making them. We're constantly thinking, are they going to like this? Are they going to like that? Will they appreciate this or not? So, yeah, it's pretty special.
All right, so thank you for coming on again. And Shane, what does that bring us to a close to?
Sorry, what?
That brings us to the close.
Just had a little hiccup in the audio there, so just bring it to a close.
Just bring it to a close.
Yep, fantastic. Okay, thank you once again, Justin, for your time. Remember, folks, you can see this interview and more on Circuit42.com. You can catch us on Facebook and Twitter as well, I believe.
Yeah, you can stalk us on the Twitter.
Oh, yeah. And, all right, till next time, I am Shane Fitzgerald, and I have been joined by Ian McIntosh.
Yeah.
Shannon Bowles.
Later.
Hey, I'd like to say thanks to Ian, Shane, and Shannon. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It was.
Thank you very much. And keep riding the circuit on Circuit 42, and enjoy your chimichanga with a tasty ding-dong. Oh, yeah!
All right. Thank you guys for this. This was awesome.